I want to start with a simple moment, one you've probably seen before, maybe even lived through yourself. Picture a wife, let's call her Jessica, coming home from a long day at work. She's tired, she's juggling groceries and her laptop bag, and as she steps into the kitchen, she sees her husband at the dishwasher. He's doing the dishes, which should be a win. But then she notices he's loading the plates in wrong. They're facing the wrong way, too close together. Not at all how she thinks they should go. Without thinking, she blurts out, "Why are you doing it like that? They'll never get clean." Her husband sighs, shrugs, and lets her take over. It's a tiny moment, harmless, she thinks. But after weeks, then months of moments like this, something shifts. He doesn't bother helping with the dishes anymore. In fact, he avoids the kitchen altogether. She feels resentful that she's left to clean up every night. He feels unappreciated, invisible, like he can't get it right no matter what he does. Now, you might laugh a little, because we've all been Jessica at some point or her husband. We think these are just small frictions, the stuff of ordinary married life. But here's the truth. Those tiny moments are oxygen leaks in the marriage. Respect, like oxygen, is invisible. You don't notice it when it's flowing, but you absolutely notice when it's gone. When respect disappears, intimacy starts gasping for air. The word respect is tricky. Many people hear it and think it means never disagreeing or keeping quiet, or worse, being submissive in a way that erases your own needs. That's not what I'm talking about. Respect in marriage is about how we communicate trust. It's about dignity. It's about whether your spouse feels safe enough to open up, to make decisions, to show up as himself or herself without fear of being torn down. Think about how often couples say, "We just don't have the romance anymore," or "We've become like roommates." Underneath those complaints, if you peel back the layers, you almost always find a respect problem. Without respect, there is no emotional safety, and without emotional safety, intimacy suffocates. I want to introduce you to another couple, Tom and Lisa. Married 12 years, 2 kids, living in a modest suburban neighborhood. Lisa is smart, organized, and likes things done a certain way. Tom is more laid back, easygoing. At first, she loved that about him. But over time, she started to see his laid-back style as irresponsibility. If he forgot to pay a bill on time, she'd say, "Why can't you just handle it like an adult?" If he dressed their daughter in mismatched clothes, she'd redo it and roll her eyes. If he disciplined their son differently than she would, she'd step in and override him. Each comment seemed small to Lisa. Just correcting mistakes, just helping. But to Tom, each correction landed as a cut. Slowly, he started checking out. He stayed later at work. He scrolled on his phone more. He stopped volunteering for family decisions. Lisa, meanwhile, felt abandoned, like she had to carry everything. Their real problem wasn't money or parenting styles. It was a slow erosion of respect. This is what makes respect so vital. Respect says, "I trust you, even when you're not doing things my way. I trust that you're capable." Disrespect, on the other hand, whispers, "You're not good enough. You don't measure up. I have to take over." And when that message gets delivered often enough, even unintentionally, the marriage begins to starve for intimacy. Let me give you another angle. Imagine being at a dinner party with friends. The conversation is light, the food is good, everyone's laughing. Then one spouse makes a joke at the other's expense. "You should never let Mark near the grill," Sarah teases. "He'd burn down the whole yard." Everyone laughs, including Mark, kind of. Later that night, he's quiet. Sarah can't figure out why. "Come on, it was just a joke," she insists. But what happened was deeper. In that moment, Mark felt small. He felt exposed in front of people he cared about. A single line chipped away at his sense of being respected. And when respect goes, closeness goes with it. We don't think of these moments as catastrophic. They're not affairs, they're not screaming matches, they're not betrayals of trust. But they are betrayals of something quieter and just as crucial, the belief that your partner sees you as competent, worthy, and safe. And here's the kicker. Respect is not just about avoiding insults or keeping criticism to yourself. Respect is active. It's in the way you choose gratitude instead of nitpicking. It's in the way you pause before correcting and let your spouse handle something in his or her own way. It's in the way you give the benefit of the doubt instead of assuming incompetence. Respect is a daily practice of letting your partner breathe, of not putting a hand on their throat without even realizing it. I once heard a man say, "I don't need my wife to agree with me all the time. I just need to feel like she's on my side." That's it. That's respect. Not perfect harmony, not silence, not blind obedience, just the sense that your partner is for you, not against you. Let's circle back to Jessica and the dishwasher. Imagine if, instead of correcting, she had walked over, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "Thanks for doing the dishes." That's such a help. Would the plate still get clean? Probably. Would her husband feel respected, trusted, even admired? Absolutely. That small shift changes everything. Because here's the hidden truth. When people feel respected, they rise to it. They lean in. They give more, not less. Respect is the oxygen of intimacy. Without it, love gasps. With it, marriages breathe again. And it starts in the everyday, ordinary dishwasher loading moments that seem too small to matter. But they do, they always do. Now, some of you might be wondering, but what if my spouse really does mess things up? What if he really is careless or she really does make mistakes? That's real. Of course mistakes happen. Respect doesn't mean pretending mistakes don't exist. It means choosing how you respond to them. You can correct with contempt, or you can let someone learn through experience. You can say, "That was dumb," or you can say, "We'll figure it out." One destroys intimacy, the other breathes life into it. Every couple I've worked with, every family I've observed, they all share this pattern. When respect is present, intimacy thrives. When respect fades, intimacy struggles to survive. Respect is not flashy. It doesn't get headlines, but it's the quiet current that carries every marriage, every long-term relationship, every family dynamic that works. So before we talk about tools and strategies, I want you to hold on to this one picture: oxygen. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And when it's missing, you can't survive. Respect is the same. You might not notice it when it's flowing, but the moment it disappears, the relationship starts to suffocate. And that's why respect is not optional. It's essential. The truth is, most marriages don't explode because of one giant betrayal. They suffocate slowly, almost invisibly, under the weight of 1,000 small dismissals. It's the eye roll at the dinner table, the sarcastic joke in front of friends, the constant "why'd you do it that way?" over something as small as folding towels. Each one feels minor in the moment. But together, they form a pattern that leaves one partner feeling unseen, untrusted, and eventually unwilling to show up. Think about the times you've been at a social gathering where a couple entertains the room with little jabs at each other. People laugh, but you can feel the sting beneath it. Let's go back to Sarah and Mark at their neighborhood barbecue. The music is playing, kids are chasing each other in the yard, and Mark is proudly tending the grill. Sarah, holding a plate of potato salad, calls out loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Don't let Mark near the steaks too long. Last time he nearly turned them into charcoal." Everyone chuckles. Mark forces a smile, but inside he feels small. Later that night, when the guests have gone and the kids are in bed, Sarah wants to chat, maybe even connect physically. Mark shrugs her off. She doesn't understand. "Why are you so distant?" "I was just joking." But to him, that one line wasn't a joke. It was another reminder that he's not respected. Now multiply that by weeks, months, years of little digs and corrections. Respect doesn't disappear in one blow. It erodes like water against stone. And what people don't realize is that it doesn't just erode the other person, it erodes intimacy itself. Because intimacy is built on trust, and trust cannot live where respect has died. I once spoke with a woman who said, "I don't get it. I keep asking my husband to talk more, but he just sits in silence. Why won't he open up?" As we unpacked her story, she recalled how often she corrected him mid-sentence, or how she rolled her eyes when he shared an idea she thought was silly. She didn't mean to disrespect him. She thought she was being honest or playful. But from his perspective, the message was clear. What you say doesn't matter. You don't measure up. Why would he risk opening his heart in that environment? Here's where the problem escalates. When respect is missing, men often check out emotionally. They withdraw. They spend more time at work, in front of a screen, or at the gym. It's not because they don't care, it's because they don't feel safe. For many women, this withdrawal feels like abandonment. So they push harder, they try to control more, they criticize louder. The cycle feeds on itself until the intimacy that once felt effortless is now gasping for breath. Let me share the story of Michael and Karen. They'd been married nearly 20 years, raised 3 kids, and built a nice life together in a quiet Midwestern town. But over time, their marriage became a battlefield of little remarks. Karen was quick with sarcasm. She thought it kept things light. "Nice job mowing the lawn. Crooked again," she'd say. Or, "Well, don't ask Michael to fix it unless you want to wait until next Christmas." The kids laughed sometimes. Friends shrugged it off. But Michael grew smaller with each jab. He stopped initiating intimacy. He stopped planning weekends together. He spent more and more evenings in the garage or glued to sports. Karen felt invisible, rejected, unwanted. She even accused him once. "Are you seeing someone else?" But he wasn't. He was just retreating into a safer world, because in his own home he felt disrespected. Their marriage wasn't collapsing from a scandal. It was dying from lack of oxygen, respect slowly leaking out until intimacy could no longer breathe. That's the climax of the conflict, right there. Disrespect isn't just about bad manners, it's about emotional survival. When you take away respect, you take away the possibility of trust. And without trust, what's left? Transactions. 2 people negotiating chores, bills, schedules, but not sharing hearts. And yet, here's the good news. Respect can be rebuilt. The oxygen can return. But it requires something that doesn't come naturally when you're hurt. It requires awareness and choice. Respect is not passive, it's active. It's not just the absence of criticism, it's the presence of belief. It's choosing to trust when you want to take over. It's holding back the sarcastic remark and replacing it with gratitude. It's deciding that the relationship matters more than being right in the moment. I'll never forget a woman I'll call Rebecca. She and her husband had constant battles over parenting. If he disciplined the kids, she'd swoop in and redo it. If he let them watch too much television, she'd scold him in front of them. One day, exhausted from the fighting, she made a small but radical decision. She would stop correcting him in front of the kids. Even when she disagreed, she bit her tongue. It wasn't easy. The first week, she was practically vibrating with the urge to jump in, but she stayed quiet. Something surprising happened. Her husband began to step up more. He wasn't perfect, but he was more engaged, more confident, and the kids noticed. They saw their parents on the same team. They felt more secure, and Rebecca realized something powerful. Her respect didn't weaken her voice. It strengthened their family. That's the turning point. Respect is like oxygen, because the more you give, the more the relationship can breathe. And when a relationship can breathe, intimacy returns. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. It starts with little choices, the same way the breakdown started with little digs. Hold back one correction, replace one sarcastic comment with a thank you, let one mistake slide without commentary. Each of these is a breath of fresh air for the marriage. Respect isn't about never disagreeing. It's about how you disagree. It isn't about ignoring problems. It's about addressing them with dignity. And it isn't about one partner being in charge and the other being silent. It's about both partners being safe enough to show up fully without fear of being diminished. So here's the challenge as we build toward resolution. Notice the oxygen leaks. Where are the little moments where you roll your eyes, interrupt, or make that funny joke at your spouse's expense? What feels harmless to you may be starving your marriage of the respect it needs to survive. The hopeful truth is, you don't have to overhaul everything overnight. Just start patching one leak at a time. Each choice to respect is a choice to restore intimacy. By now, we've seen how respect can disappear through little leaks, and how those leaks can slowly suffocate intimacy. The hopeful part, the part I want to leave you with, is that those same little choices that once drained the marriage can also revive it. Respect is not gone forever just because it's been absent for a while. In fact, it's one of the most renewable resources in a relationship. When you begin to practice respect intentionally, even in small ways, the shift is almost immediate. One of the first tools is deceptively simple. Choose appreciation over criticism. Most of us don't realize how often our default phrase starts with, "Why didn't you?" or "You should have." It's almost instinct. Why didn't you put the laundry in the dryer? Why didn't you call the plumber like you said you would? These sentences feel practical, but they carry an undercurrent of accusation. They say, "You failed me." What happens if you replace those with, "Thanks for folding the towels," or "I really appreciate you making that phone call, even if it wasn't done perfectly or at the time you wanted"? That one shift communicates belief instead of doubt. It gives oxygen instead of stealing it. The amazing thing is, the more you thank someone, the more they want to repeat the behavior you noticed. Another practice is learning to hold back. Not everything needs to be said. A simple rule: if it won't matter in a week, don't mention it tonight. If he loads the dishwasher differently and the plates still come out clean, maybe let it go. If she takes the long route to the store, but you still get there, save your breath. Every time you let go of a minor correction, you send the message, "I trust you." I don't need to control everything. And the irony is, the less you nitpick, the more the other person actually pays attention to what matters. Holding back is not weakness, it's wisdom. Third, Express desires without demands. This one changes the whole tone of a marriage. Compare "you never help with the kitchen" to "I'd love a clean kitchen tonight." The first is a criticism, a declaration of failure. The second is a simple expression of desire. One invites defensiveness, the other invites generosity. Most people actually want to please their partner. They just don't respond well to being told they've failed. When you phrase your needs as desires instead of accusations, you make room for your spouse to step in and shine. Another powerful practice is giving private respect and public honor. We talked earlier about the barbecue, where Sarah made a joke at Mark's expense. The reverse is just as powerful. Imagine Sarah saying at that same barbecue, "Mark's the king of the grill. Nobody makes better ribs than he does." In private, she thanks him for the effort, even if the ribs came out a little burnt. In public, she speaks words that build him up instead of tearing him down. That combination builds a sense of safety and pride. It tells your spouse, "I see you. I value you. I want the world to see what I see." Public honor has a ripple effect. It not only strengthens the marriage, but it models respect for your kids, your friends, your community. Let me give you a story of transformation. Jason and Michelle had been married 15 years. Life was busy. 2 teenagers, jobs, bills, the usual stress. They weren't fighting constantly, but they were drifting. Michelle felt like Jason was distant, like he'd stopped trying. Jason felt like Michelle was constantly unhappy with him, no matter what he did. One night, after yet another argument about the messy garage, Michelle decided to try something different. Instead of correcting him the next morning, she bit her tongue. That evening, when Jason took out the trash without being asked, she said, "Thank you, that really helps me." When he offered to drive their daughter to soccer, she didn't say, "Make sure you're on time." She just said, "I appreciate you doing that." Slowly, the atmosphere shifted. Within a few weeks, Jason was more affectionate. He started surprising her with small gestures, a takeout dinner, a text in the middle of the day. Months later, he planned an entire date night on his own, something he hadn't done in years. He even fixed things around the house without her mentioning it. Their kids noticed too. They commented that Mom and Dad seemed happier. All Michelle had done was change the air supply, stop leaking respect, and start breathing it into the relationship. That's the big idea I want you to carry. Respect doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean blind agreement. It doesn't mean pretending you don't have opinions or needs. It means treating your spouse as a capable adult, someone worthy of dignity, someone you believe in. Respect is the soil in which intimacy grows. Without it, everything feels hard, heavy, transactional. With it, intimacy feels effortless, light, natural. The marriage breathes again. So here's my challenge. Tonight, just try one thing, one dose of oxygen. Maybe it's biting your tongue instead of correcting how the dishwasher is loaded. Maybe it's saying, "Thanks for picking up the groceries," instead of "You forgot the milk." Maybe it's complimenting your spouse in front of your kids or friends. Just one breath of respect. And then tomorrow, another, and the day after that, one more. Imagine what could happen if you kept breathing life back into your marriage for weeks, months, years. Respect is invisible. You can't measure it on a chart. You can't hold it in your hand. But the results are undeniable. Couples laugh more, arguments shrink, intimacy returns, the atmosphere in the house lightens. Kids feel safer. Partners look at each other with warmth again. That's the power of respect. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, But it's the oxygen that makes everything else possible. So the question is, will you let your marriage suffocate? Or will you choose to give it breath? Respect is free. It costs nothing but a choice. And it might just be the most powerful choice you ever make. Tonight, choose one moment of respect you might usually withhold. Give it freely. Watch what happens. Because respect, like oxygen, can bring even the most tired marriage back to life.